login form. Here we're going to see the interaction sequence of a user when they try to log into the system. The first thing they're going to do probably is enter the website of the company, or maybe access through a URL, or somehow they have to access an option so they can sign in. Once they can access this option, they click on it, and a form is going to be displayed. This is what we call a login form, where we type in our username, our password, and we log in. Once we're logged in, it will take us to our private portal. So if a user has credentials, they're going to be able to log in with their credentials into their private area. Now, if they don't have credentials, they're probably going to want to click on another option so they can join, so they can create a new account. So let's say in our website or via an email, or somehow we give them access to this option so they can click on it. And when they do, it's going to open another form. This isn't a login form. This is just a registration form. We can create this registration form with a process. So this could be the start message event of a process. And once they fill in the information that we need in order to create a new user in the system, we're going to complete the registration process. And usually it's going to have the form to get registered. After that, we're going to probably confirm their email to make sure they gave us a correct email address. And once they've confirmed that, we can create their new user and send them their credentials. So once they have their new credentials, they can go back to the website, they can enter the login form, and they can log into their private area. Here we can see an example of the best practices when we're building these type of features. First of all, we're going to want a place like a website, somewhere where any anonymous user can access these options to sign in or to join. So there should be a link to a registration form and there should be a link to a login form. Now, when it comes to the registration form, usually it's going to allow us to start a registration process because we need to create their user, we need to create their credentials. The form must be anonymous, so we're going to create a process with an anonymous start message event. And the user must be able to provide some data. Usually we're going to ask them for their name, for their email address, etc. It's also convenient to allow the user to go back to the website. Sometimes they want to jump back to the website because they realize they don't really want to become a member. Or maybe it would be convenient to add a link to the login form. Maybe they remember they already had credentials, so they don't want to create a new user. So we can allow them to jump back into a login form. It's also quite convenient to show them the terms of use. Usually when we're going to use someone's data, it's convenient to tell them what we're going to do with their data. In some countries, it's even mandatory. So we have to explain, or we have to tell the user why we're requesting their private data or what we're going to do with that private data. The same thing happens when we're in a login form. It's also convenient so the user knows each time he logs in that, what we're going to do with his private data. So how do we create a login form? We must use a feature that we'll see in a moment. It's called login form. The user must be allowed to provide their credentials. They must be able to return to the website. This form must contain the terms of use, or it should. It should contain an option to reset the password. We're also going to see that in a moment. And it may contain a link to register. So we might want to allow the user to jump from this form to this one here, or to jump from this form to the website. Now here we can see what a registration process would look like. Basically, we'd have a start message event that's been created for an anonymous user. So we don't really need credentials to trigger or to launch this process. Once the new user has subscribed, has entered their information, we're going to verify their email. Once we verify their email, because basically what we do here is we send them an email with a link. When they click on the link, they're going to be verifying that they were the ones who actually submitted this form. So once we know the email they gave us is correct, we can send the flow down here. We can create the new user. And when we create the new user, we're going to generate their username and password. So later on, we can send them a message to their email telling them, look, these are your credentials. use them to enter the private area. We're not going to go into detail about all these different objects and how to configure them, because this is something that's explained in another course. Now, when we're in structure, we have an option to select the default login form for employees or for external users. So all we have to do is go to structure in the space of administration. There's an option that says authentication, and when we click on this option, we're going to see we have the links to access the employees portal or the external portal. And there's a drop down where we can see all the different login forms that we've created, and we can select any of those. Now, when we're setting up the login forms, there's an option. It's called I've forgotten my password. If we want, we can enable it. And if we enable this option, it means the users are going to be able to reset their password. So this would be the first step. First, we have to enable this feature in the login form. And the second step would be going to authentication. And once we're inside authentication, there's an option that's called password recovery that allows us to map the fields that we have in the records of the employees or the contacts. So when they try to recover their password, we're going to send them an email with a special link that they can click on this link and recover their password. I'm going to enter the application and we're going to see these options. So first of all, I'm going to authentication. And here I can see there's one login form selected, but I could select a different one for employees or for the external users. Okay, so what's going to happen? If I already have a login form selected here, this would be the default login form, the one that we have in the application, the platform by default. When someone tries to enter with their credentials, they're going to see that default login form. So let's do a test. I tried to log in and it's showing me this default login form. Okay, let's see how it's been configured. I'm going to structure. From structure, I'm going to forms, login form. And from here, I can open the default login form. This one's already created when we purchased the product. So here we can see the settings. This would be the look and feel, and here we can see the configuration. Now here we can activate the option to remind us of our password. We can add other buttons, we can change the background image, we can change the icon. So there's a few customization options. For example, here, if I want it, I could change the image. Maybe this one here. Now we can see it has a different look and feel. I can also totally customize the login form. So I don't have to use this option. This would be the default option. It's the easiest option to use. But now we're also going to see how to customize the login form. All we have to do is click on the button create and create a new login form. We can go here and see a login form that I've already created. Basically, we use the exact same tools we're already used to using for any other form. There's just one specific field that we can add here. It's called the login field. Well, I already have one. It's this one here. So basically, it's got all the different options to log in. Here you can see the result where you can type in your login, your password. You can indicate if you wanted to remember your session, and you've got the accept button. And now here you can make a few changes. For example, if instead of accept you want a different name, or you want the fields to be positioned vertically or horizontally, we could do that. Anyways, this would be the only configuration that would be different or that would differ from all the other forms that you've been designing. So here we can see we have complements where we can add images, we can add buttons. So basically it's the same as configuring any other form. Anyways, once you have your form created, you can go back here to authentication. Now we can change it. We can say, well, now I want the default login form to be this one, the one I just designed. I'll just save. And now we're going to see if I refresh, now it's showing us the new login form. Here we're going to see that in this login form, we've actually connected it to a star message event. When I click here on create new account, it takes me to this other form. This would be the form of a star message event. From the star message event, I could actually go back to the login form. So I can click here on I'm already registered and it takes me back. So basically I'm jumping from a login form to a star message event by clicking on these buttons. Now, how did I configure this? It's actually quite easy. All we have to do is enter the configuration of our login form. And we have to add a button. So this would be a button that I just added. And in the configuration of the button, I added a link. And here I pasted the link of the star message event. Now let's go to the star message event. So I'm going to processes, registration process. So this would be the registration process, and this would be the star message event of this process. Now, here I can copy the link. So basically what I did is I copied this link and I pasted it here in the login form. Afterwards, what I did is I entered the form, I designed it with this look and feel, and then here in this button that says I am already registered, what I did is I pasted the link to the login form. This way I can go and come back from one form to the other one without any problems. So the end result looks like this. I'm in the login form, I click on create new account, it takes me to the start message event. If I want, I could create a new account and submit. If I do this, the process would start, or if not, I can just go back and input my credentials to open a new session. There we go. So I just logged in. If I log out, from now on, I'm going to be seeing this login form. If I want to change it, all I have to do is go back to this option here in structure, authentication, and set it up so it's the default login form. Exercise 403, part 5, 6, and 7. Thank you for your attention.